ring. And it's kind of hard to do that because this kind of knowledge, where it may have been widespread back with in our earlier ancient days, they took all that away from us.
Yeah, like biorhythms. Your biorhythms can be electronically read because they have machines calibrated to your biorhythm.
Mm-hmm.
And each one of your biorhythms is assigned a color. The same with moods, right? Remember the mood ring? When your mood change, the color change? Right, because they all have a energy signature. Some stones, like the one they make the real moon rings out of, not these fake ones that they use paper that's designed to do what the stone do, but the real stone, people would carry them around to monitor their own mood so that they can try to maintain a certain frequency.
Right.
And then they turned them into a novelty, exploiting our culture because we naturally drawn to things that's from our old cultures. They find ways to give us a mimic, an artificial replica of it, and then our genetic memory will be drawn to it. It's the same with the Bible. That's why the Bible is rewritten and scrambled up to confuse us, because the genetic memory remembers the holy drama. Everybody that's earthborn, the story of Osiris and Isis has a different story around the world, but it's the same story. It's called the holy drama. Right? And it's the story of the father falling to the uncle and the son of the father coming back to take the rulership back from the uncle.
Okay.
Right? In Sumeria, it's the story of Ninigazita, Enki, and Enlil. Right? Over here, it's the great father sky and Mother Earth, right? And then they produce the Hayoka, a high priest, high chief. Right? So the story is the same. It's just played out differently in different cultures to suit the underlying genetic memory of the people local to the area. Right? So when they tell us these stories, our genetic memories say this is the truth, even if it's scrambled up. Your genes, your DNA program will unscramble the story subconsciously. So you have to be able to read your own subconscious mind in order to bring the truth of the matter to conscious awareness. They tell you not to do introspection because the idle mind is the devil's workshop. But who is the devil? Devil means enemy, adversary, opponent. So if it's you versus you, that's the best place to be. In your head. But you always hear people say, get out your head. You all thinking too much. There's no such thing as thinking too much, because how do you learn how to think? By thinking. By examining your thought process. You learn how to think. They took critical thinking and practical problem solving that was hardwired into all of our education out of the educational curriculum. So now there's no critical thinking, practical problem solving. You have to ask for that separately. You have to enroll your child into K through 12 critical thinking, practical problem solving, and they're going to try to tell us it don't exist. But you can go to Amazon, type in critical thinking K through 12, and the whole books will come up.
Oh, wow.
But it don't exist. Those classes are only privy to the people in the higher economic echelon based off the 3-tier German school philosophy. Richelin, Volschulin, academia. Real school, false school, and academia. Academia is where the ones that they want to rule is taught. Real schooling is the ones that they want to mediate and govern over the rest of the masses. That's where they taught. And Volschulin is where everybody else is taught, which sounds like false schooling, which is artificial education.
Wow. So from a standpoint of, do you think that the paradigm of so-called education as we've known it up until we got to the COVID time of COVID, where, you know, many parents, you know, children were home for what, a year or so, I felt like there was a shift in that paradigm. I mean, anybody trying to say start a school or whatever and keep it in a certain, and I'm not talking about anybody, but in particular, but I feel like, you know, sending your children to school now is probably been exposed as not as advantageous to their knowledge base as we thought it was. I mean, it's the steps you have to take in order to get these certifications and degrees, but does it really give the child the erudition that they need? I mean, it was when we were doing home economics and what do you call it, carpentry and auto mechanics. I'm not no things are but things like that, where children could come out of school, you know, hair, you know, beautician. They could come out of school and be, if they wanted, they could go into some type of a job if they wanted to. But now they get a whole bunch of gender twisting, bending. They get a lot of things. I forgot what they're calling that thing, but they're getting a lot of stuff that's basically about a bunch of propaganda.
It's all social engineering.
Well, yeah, and it's not preparing them, and so they still feel like they have to go somewhere for higher education. And my question is it really higher education, or is it just a way to get more of the siphon the finances out of the people and still never give them anything, you know, no value for the, you know, what they put into it? Because at the end of it, what do they come out with? A large, you know, a bill that they can never pay off. And more than likely, they might end up working in, you know, a fast food restaurant than they will in the profession in which they call themselves being trained or at a higher level. So do you see that ending? Do you see that there being a paradigm shift in the so-called education to an erudition type situation that the matriarchy will put together, that's maybe patterned after something that used to be?
Yeah, the whole educational system is going to be revamped. Most of their systems is going to be to benefit the collective as opposed to the elites at the top. That's going back to the tribal ways. The way that they educate now, they don't educate you. What they do is indoctrinate you. It's a difference. The indoctrination effects can be shown in modern education with the conditions of how they're teaching the children and what's the focus: sex. Not just sex, the most perverse and corrupt sex.
Absolutely.
Right? Gender confusion is part of the new curriculum. So when we talk about a gay agenda, it was a group of homosexual priests in the 60s that hired a group of retired generals to tell them how they had to write them a report and tell them how to make homosexuality acceptable to the mainstream. And then they came out and began to finance that the same way they financed them generals to do the research. They begin to pay off corporations to incorporate the curriculum and indoctrinate the children, because they don't worry about the adults. If they can control the children, they got you for another generation. COVID exposed the fraud in the educational system when parents was forced to have to homeschool. And it wasn't as difficult as they thought it was going to be, and their children was happier. And a lot of them said, we're not sending our baby back to that because they're miserable. They know subconsciously that they're being programmed to do something that's contrary to their nature. And so they hate school. Some of them hate it to their own detriment and commit suicide because of it. But we don't want to address those issues. What's wrong with the educational system that's sending my child to school and making him jump off a bridge? We don't want to talk about it because then we be held accountable for sending our children who can't function in a Skinner box, given directions by a Pavlovian response system bell. This is all social engineering because when they created modern education, they said the agenda is to create a nation of workers.
Right. That's true.
If you was a critical thinker and a practical problem solver, you don't have to work. You can create your own business from almost anything.
That's true.
Anything around you it can be used to survive. And a lot of people don't understand that. That's called living off the fat of the land. Go back to Fred Sanford. What was his source of income? He sold junk.
Junk. Junk. That's right.
Some of the junk dealers from over here where I'm at, they leave the junkyard in a pickup truck, go home, take a shower, get dressed, and get in a Mercedes and go to the uptown community where they fit right in. But during the work hours, you can't tell they not bums.
That's true. And I think that, most of what we have or what we need exists. It's just that they've introduced the fiat system as a way of I guess it's not even a barter, but forcing one into a level of servitude in order to get basic things that everyone should have a right to. You know what I mean? When you talk about life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness or whatever. So we're talking about even the basic of basics that a lot of people are living without because they've had this fiat system that they've created with this false, with this monopoly, so-called money, and people are scrambling trying to make it.
I call them prison tokens.
Well, okay, all right.
That's the same way as token. It's the same as tokens in prison. You can't spend them nowhere in the world. You can't leave the prison. You can't leave the prison with $1 million in prison tokens and get a dime.
Wow, that's true, and that's what we're that's what we're headed towards anyway. With the with the end of the fiat system, but we realize that it's not just the U.S. dollar, if you will, the U.S. fiat, but it's anything that's connected. Anybody else who has fiat, that's all affected. So that's why I think it's probably taking some time for some of these things to, when people have been waiting for the transition, it's going to happen. But I don't think it's going to happen as easily as we think, because it's not just, we're talking about the what is it? What do they call it? In Europe, they use a euro. We have the whatever, the USD. You've got the different currencies. The paper currencies are all fiats.
Yeah. So we go into a crypto system, electronic banking system, but the bank notes will be based on asset. That means if you have a $10 gold note, you will be able to redeem it for $10 in gold once again.
Okay.
Cash and carry, ain't no credit. You either can buy it or you can't.
Right.
Debt equals slavery.
True.
We know that they use the system of debt to enslave the people.
Right. Listen, right. I'm gonna stop us for a minute. We need to let those who just can't come in know what's going on. We are actually we started this first 45 minutes or so on YouTube and Facebook because we wanted you all to. We didn't have a real way to get you on our unfiltered channel, so we have a link in the description box. I want y'all to hear me good. We're going to end this part of the broadcast. There is a link in the description box, whether you're on Facebook or YouTube. It says you must use this link to access the unfiltered version. We're going to be ending this portion in just a few minutes. And what we want you to do is to click back in on the link. You're basically going to see the same thing that you see, but what the difference is that we will not be on Facebook. We will not be on YouTube. If you want to share that link with anyone, please share it. They can get on. There's no registration required, but you do have to click the link to enter in. We have space for 10,000 folks. So you can tell everybody if you want, but we want to come back on and be a lot less guarded about what we say. At least Chief will be able to say, because we've talked about some things that we know will probably be a bit controversial, might kind of raise the ire, if you will, of the internet gods, and we just want to be able to be open and honest. So there's like 800 and so of you all right now. We can see, I can see now. I went down and said, so between Facebook and YouTube, if you go back, if you click off, go to the description of this show, the link is there. You click on, and we're going to be coming back on in just a few minutes. At 8:30 is when the broadcast will begin over there. As a matter of fact, as soon as we log off, Chief, we can actually log in and be over there, and then start letting people. And we don't have to let you in. Once you click, you're in. But we want you to know that the venue, so to speak, is changing, but the conversation is going to be continuing, but at another level. And so please bear with us. Over where? Okay, over where? Click the link that's in the description. If you're on YouTube, just click, when you look at YouTube, you see where you can click on more for description. And when you look down there, it tells you what's on tonight. And it also says you must click on this link. There's a hot link there. Facebook, there's a hot link there. Click that link, and it's going to bring you over to our private, what we call unfiltered channel, which means it's not on YouTube and it's not on Facebook. That's all. Other than that, nothing changes. You'll be able to hear and you'll be able to chat and so forth, but you just will not be on YouTube or Facebook. If you want
to try to get that feminine energy harnessed to facilitate, say, cross-dressing positions. So they use your energy against you, and you don't know you surrendering it to them. Okay. It's like putting the dummy queen in the beehive, and they don't know that the dummy queen is the dummy queen. Then one day they figure it out. Then they all try to sting her ass.
So how did this role reversal, if you would say, start in this cycle of time, or what we know as time in this cycle?
If you look at the way things are, systems is how people govern themselves and others. These systems, the oldest ones that was functional with no war was matriarchy. The system of matriarchy was operated different than patriarchal domination rule. It was to bring the best out of every individual for the betterment of the collective, whereas patriarchy tried to exalt one individual at the expense of all the rest of them. I don't care how good Michael Jordan was, he couldn't have won without the rest of his team being good enough to support him. Ain't no I in team.
That's right.
Right. So a team sport exalt a star player instead of understanding, like the Pistons, blue collar work ethic incorporated the defense as the anchor, which means everybody is the same amount of important now. Right? And they won championships with that. They changed the ideology and they fell apart.
Exactly.
As soon as they started making stars out of one player.
So explain the process of basically how did the system get usurped? Like, how did it get switched out? How did we go from matriarchy? Okay.
So this was what Cleopatra's fight was. In the last dynasty that fought against the Roman Empire. The fall of Cleopatra is your Jesus story, right? But they don't tell you that Jesus is Isis and Cleopatra was the seated Isis of the day. Because that solves a whole lot of the historical anomaly. She was fighting patriarchs from Rome. But this is the continuation of a Babylonian assault on the world using sin magic. That's why they call everybody sinners in the Christian church. And the sin is the blood rites and the child sacrifice rituals that's being done behind the scenes, and you are reinforcing it in the forefront by turning a blind eye to it. You're changing the energy. They're using these pedophile priest cults to subjugate the people by ruining the children. They know exactly who to scar, how to scar them, and why they scarring them that way. Some of them, they just beat them into submission. They want to inflict what's called learned helplessness on them. So they can't defend themselves now because they so beat down, they broken. They just lay there and take it, right? So what takes place in Egypt was the transferring and the fighting for power that began in Greece under Alexander the Great. They were following information brought to them from the Ottoman Empire through Macedonians. So when you start looking at how they was moving across the land in history books, it's clear as day the same people was controlling everything that's been controlling it, where they at, why they hiding there, and why ain't nobody going in there to get them. Right? Now, that had to be done by the Earth Alliance. The Earth Alliance was responsible to locating all of them and weeding them out like the root to a pimple. Then once Earth go back to balance, women wanted men so that the men can be masculine and the women can be her highest degree of feminine. Because the masculine protects that energy with his life. Because that's how he has the experience called heaven on Earth in this life, not the next one, not after you die, not after you get done suffering unnecessary suffering. Once you realize what's going on, the men become more masculine when they realize that the only reason they here is so the women can be feminine. They wanted to be in a feminine energy. This is called ceremonial high magic. By walking in the spirit of life, you performing a ritual with your sisters. And all of the men go to a euphoria, right? And the euphoria makes the men stand up to a different level. So when they see the men doing the work and they know, they say, oh, I can rest now. They know the chief they've been waiting on because they say to themselves, I've been waiting on this one. He ain't like the rest.
Right. So the word out here on these spiritual streets, okay, that the women were here first before the creation of man. So can you go into
That's been proven through fossil records, through genetics. The Y chromosome is the X with an atrophied appendage, meaning it's lost a sizable portion of its genetic stock. The mitochondrial regulates the energy to the Y chromosome, or else we wouldn't be no men. Because he has to get it from his mother. The higher your spiritual rank, the stronger your mother's mitochondrial responsibility. Then you become the beekeeper, the king bee, protecting the hive from all of these rogue hornets, masquerading to be king bees, and all the time they queen bees. Drag queen bees, that is. Pedophile priest cults, masquerading as righteous men while they defile children behind the pulpit in the name of their Jesus Christ and Lord and Savior. In order to scorn the name of ISIS, they change it to J. And this is why they say, I'll make you fisher of men. When I turn this I into a J, will you figure it out?
Well, okay. So these men in these skirts, honey, where they had come from? Like, what culture is this? What part in history is this where these men in
War effort. It's a war effort by the priests of the god Ninnersin. By them practicing the money magic rituals of Ninnersin and having us follow along with the Babylonian sex magic of Ninnersin and the Babylonian money magic where we surrender all our power to somebody else to hold our money on our behalf. Right? These are spells of government. So you look at it like the bees that learn how to control the pheromones can control the hive. Right? So if the bee that's changing the frequency, that's going to cause the interruption in the pheromone balance as is told to the next generation of bees. It's the same with the mitochondrial scanning the Y chromosome. This is why Elijah Muhammad say the prayer of the nation is answered through the womb of the women. Right? And that's why you watch what you say while you're pregnant, because you calling forth either the scourge of earth or the saviors of mankind. But that's up to the mothers to decide how do they want to produce for the future. Because the mitochondrial adjusts. It's the energy source. And all energy ties directly back to source. Source energy. Women control it, men inherit it. We become the defenders of the ones who carry the birthright of the earth rights. That's the ones who hold the power over the frequencies of mitochondria. When we realize that, it changes the interaction of everybody on the planet because it becomes more harmonious between the sexes. And that in and of itself, a woman feel like she being flirted with even when ain't nobody else around, and she start to blush because she walking in that energy that would make anybody want to flirt.
Okay. Okay. Wow. Okay. So this Babylonian energy, who and what is Babylonian? Let's go there.
This is the biblical source of all evil on earth.
Mm.
They tell you that in the Bible. In the book of Daniel, it would tell you all of the Babylonian empires. The biblical scholars say that the feat of iron and clay is America. Right? So now you got to go cross stories in Priest Temple. If you know the story of the Bible well enough, you can match it up with the other priest stories in order to access information. Right? The Babylonian government ranking system that they had, they say we had iron and clay. Well, who's done that's hewn from the mountain without the hands of man, but by the power of God? The stone that no workman has touched, right? Who was sealed in the mountain? Sun Wukong, the Monkey King, right? The stories say he was sealed in the mountain for 5,000 years. And then some chick come along and set him free. That means the heart is the key. The monkey key is the Congo key, because the Congo key is the primate key. And the primate is the perfect mate. That's the man that all of the women want, because all of the women want the man that all the other women want. It's the law of nature. They can talk that smack, but they all gonna look at the same direction when the right frequency of the man that they think all the other women in their environment want. Now he become the catch. That's how you create a hierarchy in the community. It's the law of nature acting itself out in a civilized society. So now he driving around in a Cadillac with three-piece suits on in the summertime.
That's it. That's it.
Wearing all the diamonds and gold that he could find in the local jewelry store.
Okay. Yeah, the pawn shop,
With his exotic Canadian perfume Dior cologne for men.
That's it.
Right?
Yeah. So this Rome, because this has been going on for a long time. So how initially did they get into power?
Through warfare and infiltration of royal families by inserting children in the place of princes at birth. All the time, they're the bloodline of somebody else. They do it in America now. They kidnap baby chiefs in the hospital and switch them out with somebody that's not like us and have us raising a child. We can't figure out what his damn problem is. He don't act like nobody in my family. Where they find this SOB? This can't be my child, or they wouldn't act this way. That's not even the energy of his daddy's side of the family. They've been switching babies out the whole time, and they've been telling us they've been switching babies out the whole time. This is why Child Protective Services is the instrumental element of the separation of children from families in order to put the wrong children with families that don't match their frequency in order to corrupt the people of the land on purpose. So now we go through what's called the cleansing period, where the ones who understand how to balance the frequency of all tribes, you can only use one frequency, and that's the love frequency. And if you follow the love frequency, then you activate the love energy in the others. And once that energy is activated, you can't trap love in a box. It don't fit. And the people that walk in the power of that energy becomes unstoppable, because now you're starting to tap in to what's called your esoteric self information. Your knowledge of self from your higher self to yourself that no book can tell you about yourself. And then you begin to realize you're reading your personal book of life. So now you understand that the only person knew you well enough for you to live the life you live to become the person you are today, the one you're most proud of, is you. You're the author of your story, and you made it fit in so easily with the stories of others. And the better you is in weaving your story, the higher you move among the rank and the spirit, until you can't be denied, and your love light shine and it lights up the world in the form of arts and entertainment.
I just got lost in your words. Okay. Wow. So this is deep. Okay. So especially in our culture, I hate to say this, well, I dislike to say that many cannot wrap their heads around magic. Right? Okay.
If they can't wrap their head around magic, they don't understand prayer.
Or cooking. I
Principle,
think
prin- that's alchemy. Cooking is alchemy. Prayer is magic if you expect it to come to reality. The same energy that you put forth the effort in prayer is the same energy you put forth in the effort to manifest. Like magic, out of nothing, you brought something into existence.
that's
But you weaved it in with the elements of three-dimensional reality so well, using the observer effect, everything just so-called fell into place. And it made it easier for you to walk your path.
right. So in listening to what you're saying, basically through religion, right? Many have been told to stay away from magic. It's demonic, it's this and that. When the truth of the matter is, what it sounds like is that they don't want us being knowledgeable about magic because that's the very thing that they're using against us.
Our ignorance of the way magic is applied and how it works is 100% why they was torturing us. So that's why I kind of tell them where they use the magic at, how it worked to oppress us. And once our people understood what happened, that shit don't work on them no more. Their spiritual warrior system kicks in to block that BS out of their life. And this is how you be overthrowing the other system in real time. Right? So the energy is moving as the matriarchal juggernaut is reforming. A collective of clan mothers across the land who had the first right to the earth right, because the mitochondrial of the mother is in the elements that's in the earth. And this is why they say man was formed from the dust of the ground. Man wasn't formed from the dust of the ground. He was formed from the woman who emerged as if from the dust of the ground. She came up like trees in the body of flesh. But so we can conceal her power, we hijack the matrix, right? We send in slimy sluts to infiltrate the sisterhood of the priestesses that's keeping this love in is undefeatable. Realize the purpose of their existence and they walk in it. The dynamic shifts on the dime as a massive paradigm shift. Our people is hard to learn the ways of a lesser frequency. So it make it look like we retarded because it's children's information being forced in an adult manner to us. And it doesn't make sense. It's like a parody. So we begin to reject it, but we don't know why we're rejecting it. So we force ourselves to go along in order to get along. And then you run into people like me.
The great decoder, right?
They knew I was going to be a problem when they saw me coming. They just didn't know how bad it was going to be.
That part.
And in the immortal words of Genghis Khan, if they had not been guilty of terrible sins, God would not have sent them a plague such as me.
That's it. So now fast forward, right? Because the people are waking up. Okay.
Yep.
We have your information, which I just am so thankful. There's so many of us that are so thankful for your walk and, you know, your spread of information because it is catching on like wildfire. Okay. People, even people who believe in, operate in this system that we call the government, you know, light bulbs are going off. Like, that do make sense. What he's saying makes sense, right? So now moving forward, in this time, right? Because as we're clear that spells, right, magic has been used to keep us sleeping in a slumber, going against our intuition for many of us, right? So how, from your perspective, is it that we start to deprogram to reprogram ourselves?
It has been an ongoing effort. So if you look, we've built organizations within this government that has risen and failed since they've been here. So it's not the can we build on our own has never been the issue. The problem was that if we stayed under our own vine and fig tree and let the government, they would have been stuck in one geographical location to the east of the Appalachian Mountains. They would have never crossed the mountains. But they took our kindness for weakness and exploited the chiefs, and then they told us a history that was not contrary to what was really taking place on the land, but the way that our ancestors left the history in both oral and written tradition, it comes down as old legends that helps us decode the history that they was telling us. And then we go back to find that when they came, they had a different history from us than they gave us after the civil rights movement. When they came, we was the organic people of the land that had always been here. And they described us the same as we look today. Remember, most of the tribes did not sign treaties. You only hear about the 5 civilized tribes. There was other tribes that made treaties, but the majority of tribes never made treaties with the corporation called the United States of America. And they classified us as outlaw tribes. They classified us and was declared belligerent, enemy-dependent nations. This is how they referred to us in their laws. And they declared that we couldn't read their laws, therefore we was incompetent to regulate our own affairs. So they came up with this fairy tale about the Plymouth, and this is why Malcolm said we didn't land on Plymouth Rock landed on us, because they used their standards to take us into a litigation with the Vatican, who was supposed to be the highest authority on the planet. He told them under the discovery doctrine to exploit the people of the land, and that he would enforce their lien on the land. The lien on the land marks the crash site of the Plymouth that they told us in history was called the Mayflower. They changed the name of it in our face to bring our attention to what it was. So the Mayflower originally called the Plymouth, and they left a rock to commemorate the crash site. And until Donald Trump ran that ship out of the bay, they had to maintain the ship under the laws of Admiralty and Maritime in that bay in order to collect the duty, which came in the form of batch rolls of birth certificates, which are investment bonds for the corporation that's salvaging the Black people from the waters. The Black people are the ones that was fighting the war ever since they came. They classified them by legalese as the ones they attack, as the chessboard shows you the game. And told you the whole time the Moors' favorite game was chess. So the chess left us at a stalemate that brought us to fight a conjure war in order to stop the physical war. But they started to cheat and violate the rules and turn us against each other so that they can exempt themselves from responsibility. And they was laughing at us the whole time, talking about kill Whitey, nigga, kill Whitey. And he Whitey. It's a David Copperfield trick that was played on us.
Wow.
Well, once you see it, you can't unsee it. All the evidence is there in the public. Point it out. And I done been posting it for 5 years, proving the point.
Your patience, honey. Patience, patience, patience. Wow. So, you know, in these spiritual streets, they be saying, so above, so below, so within, so without.
Mm-hmm.
So, from any, because you're like a walking encyclopedia, you know what I'm saying? Spiritually and, you know, in this earth realm, all that. So, I just want to pick your brain just a little bit, see what's going on. You know what I'm saying?
They used to
So,
call me Dr. Rod to walk in university when I was locked up.
man, that's it. That's all. When I first heard you speak, I was like, he did Akashic records, encyclopedias, the computer. Like, what? So, galactically, so above, so below, so within, so without. Galactically, what, from your perception, from what you know, is going on? Because if we got
This is this is a 3D holographic simulator for the gods of the universe to reduce themselves to a lesser state in order to experience being from in a lesser energy. The experience is the same as somebody putting on goggles playing Fortnite. The only that we using the body as the avatar to roam, and we projecting our psyche into the avatar from a remote location somewhere else. This is the stars in the sky that represents the people. Is why you have zodiac signs that tell you what sector of the world you're looking at the world from, because the energy you came on was on this channel. And this is how astrology charts match with your life for you to be able to navigate. But they don't want you to know that. So they tell you that it's some what they call pseudoscience folklore. And astrology is an ancient temple. So why is it there if it's just some folklore? It's just and why do it accurately map the stars as astrology that you say is a legitimate science? The ephemeris is needed in the science to tell them where the location of the stars at. But you use it to read an astrological chart. You don't know you calculating the energy frequency network.
Mm.
And if you know how the energy work in the movement of people, you can see the pattern, and then you will be able to read it as it happened instead of after the fact. You got to look back on it, but you can see it coming now.
deep.
That's
So,
the great paradigm shift.
right. So we're gods projecting ourselves here to play this little game, right?
Mm-hmm.
So how does one tap in to get to know that greater part of themselves that's projecting itself here?
Okay, this is the coldest piece of information I can give you. When you in the dark and you close your eyes, you are in the center of creation as prime creator. create. See what you want your life to be. But sometimes the mind gonna exaggerate it one way or the other. But you're gonna get exactly what you design. You just changing the way your book of life is already written. At that point, you're using free will instead of the predestined path that you wrote before you came in. You always have the right in the game to assume control of the avatar and use the power of will to move the avatar where its ego would never move it if it freezes it in place, starts to jam because the information is confusing. The higher self is not confused because it has holographic memory. The avatar's memory operates almost like a movie reel in sequence.
So is that
But the holographic,
go ahead.
but the holographic mind of the God form can see it from beginning to end and sometimes beyond the beginning of this one into past lives. Because it follows the energy. The holographic memory, you see everything in multiple dimensional layouts in order to triangulate in on a source of information that you left off. It's like going back to get the coins in the game. But you got to go to the dark side of the board.
That part.
The dark side of the board is the dark place in the home where you most comfortable, right? In the darkness, in the place that you most comfortable, you can most easily look at your life and review it and say, I need to correct this, I need to correct that, I still feel some kind of way about this, I need to work this out. And then the shadow work that people scared of because it brings back emotional traumas to the forefront that they've been suppressing, that's been making a personality icky to be around. So now when they started to release it, because they're seeing it from their God form, they start laughing and say the only person that know me well enough to write this script had to be me.
Had to be. And then you begin to understand why they say God don't put nothing on you that you can't handle.
Mm-hmm. Now remember, the goal is to understand some stuff called human emotion. Because the human emotion is the navigation system on the pilot's dashboard with all them knobs and dials and stuff that telling you where you're going, where you been, how you make a turn, when to stay straight, how to lift the rudder. All that stuff is on the dashboard called emotions. The only way you can learn to use them to your advantage is to first make sure they're always in context. Now you can adjust. You can look at the system holistically, which is going to project the imagery holographically to activate your higher senses to oversee the view. Now you overstand the information by using the information to set your soul free.
So what does that mean to set our soul free? What does that mean?
That means to come to the realization of who you are as your higher self and what it means to be in the physical body. This is a training simulation to learn how to compile the energies one to another by using the system of opposites, right? But then the bad kids figured out that the system of opposites can be used to control all the kids in the school, and the dean was gone. When the dean got back, the school was out of order. So somebody had to put the new world in order. The only way to put the new world in order is to solve problems that exist within the realms of the people. And this is how you up your rank in the game, by upping more solutions that's functional in further and further reaches of the planet. And once you got sufficient working solutions for the collective of the whole, now you can put all of the pieces together so everybody can eat.
I mean, do you think that people can really wrap their minds around?
No, it's designed that way though. The game is designed to trap you in your lower frequency so you can fight your way out of it. And then when it's time to wake up and reset the game, then people got to come along with information that shocks back to reality. Back to life, back to reality, back to the here and now. So so it snaps you out of by telling you and exposing you to how the conjure works, breaks your mind free. Because once your mind understand how it works, you can't act like you don't know now. So now your mind have to tell you how to be free in the face of the oppression that they was trying to hold you under.
Right.
And then you light up. You light up. That's your inner light being set free. And that's the raising of the frequency.
So as we rise this frequency, because I mean, I noticed we noticed beforehand, right? You know, especially in our community when people had mental challenges or what we would call like schizophrenia or things of that nature, you know, it was kind of just kept and swept under the rug, right? And so now this is like more out in the open, and it is treated medically, right? And in our culture, historically, as the people of the land, we didn't have all this.
We had people who would wake up to the reality of the simulation, and they need help assimilating the spirit realm to the physical realm because they walking in two worlds fully waking to both of them. Some of them can't sleep for months at a time or years because they are fully awake. I mean that the frequency of energy that the mitochondria are putting out into the cells is allowing a 3D being to walk in fourth and fifth dimensional matrices simultaneously. So all of that energy is being refined efficiently in that individual. But because the conscious mind is conditioned that the body needs sleep to repair itself, now you told your conscious mind not to let the body repair itself. So it begins to break the vessel down. This is like saying turning off the X-Men superpower. And now they just regular people. But as soon as they realize what's going on, they X gene activate. Right? Because you can't hold the divine light oppressed forever. And if the right frequency crosses your heart chakra, it sets you free.
So the best thing we can do for those of us that are not trained in this spiritual arena to help these individuals navigate through that is to just send them love like we do everything else. Pure divine love.
One of our most powerful conjure is being happy and singing and dancing. All love languages is active powers to harness for magic in the name of love. If it's done from a righteous perspective, you wield powerful spiritual tools that chops down almost all wickedness. You just look at the things that we naturally do everywhere we are. We are everywhere we at, we barbecue, and that's not new. We've been doing that for thousands of years, and they're trying to make it look like we just figured out how to barbecue yesterday in the 1800s.
That part.
They want us to believe we was running around savage on the land, but we got ancient castles everywhere we look. Some of them they turned into prisons, some they turned into states building. But them was our castles long before 1492. So who was savage? Right? And because if our women wanted to walk around butt booty ass naked, it wasn't a problem. They wasn't gonna get raped. And you come from a culture where rape is the standard. They come from the club or on the head, drag her in the cave. That's not our MO. That's not our people. That's not our history over here. Marriage is for political moves. It's to tie families together by blood right in their face without them knowing what's taking place. This is why they want everybody to go give up some DNA. Ain't got nothing to do. The test is just for entertainment, and they tell you that right on the package. So anything that's for entertainment can be altered to match the entertaining thing that they're trying to use to entertain you. Once you realize that, then you know they're using your DNA for something else because they know who we are. They ain't never stopped watching us and following us from generation to generation because they know what families and bloodlines they got to try to murder off because they know where the chief's going to come at.